So Michael Saylor is all in on Bitcoin. The market is generally looking a bit more healthy again today. People claiming that the bottom is officially in. Twitter a bit more bullish. But what does this all mean for altcoins? Let's discuss in today's episode. This is CryptoTube. Welcome to the channel. If you enjoyed today's content, make sure you subscribe. Also check out my Patreon, link down below for additional content. Let's jump into this one. So absolute genius or full-on degenerate, I will let you decide on this one. But Microstrategy unveiled their $1 billion plan to sell their stock, essentially to buy more Bitcoin, as if they didn't already have enough. Hours after disclosing it's completed its $500 million debt offering to fuel Bitcoin purchases, the publicly traded Microstrategy signaled in an SEC filing that it may sell as much as $1 billion worth of stock over time. So Michael Saylor tweeted this out. Essentially what it goes on to say in their statement: we intend to use the net proceeds from the sale of any Class A common stock offered under this prospectus for general corporate purposes, including the acquisition of Bitcoin. So as if having 92,000 BTC was not enough on the balance sheet, they are now putting in an additional up to $1 billion. It does go on to say that they may use these funds for other things, but I think we all know what's on Michael's mind at this point in time. So Microstrategy, the corporation that really is buying the dip and buying the dip hard, and I'm sure he will look like an absolute genius in years to come when Bitcoin is trading above 500,000, maybe even $1 million. And Lark Davis comically responded to this story that he's surprised that there is any office furniture left in MicroStrategy offices, could just sell it all and buy a Bitcoin. And then Michael Saylor has replied with those thoughtful face emojis. What an absolute legend. And so off the back of some bullish news in the last few days and Bitcoin seemingly breaking out of a downward trend, we're now moving from extreme fear of last week up to a level 38 on the Richter scale for the Fear and Greed Index. And with this, you see continued bipolar behavior on Twitter. As soon as we have some confirmation that we're outside of a downtrend, people are super bullish. I would put this onto like a 60 or 70 for some tweets that I've seen over the last day or so. So it's important to stay level-headed in the market, but things are starting to look up. But where could we be heading next? So after the collapse in price, we were in this downtrending channel, and this went on for almost one whole month, up until the 14th of June, just yesterday, where we poked our head above the top of this line and then started to break out. So we are now outside of this channel here, and it looks like momentum is now in our favor as we're starting to move on up. So with this intact, we can expect the market to really start moving once again. However, we are not quite out of the woods. So where does the Bitcoin price go right now? So I expect we continue to move a little bit higher. We're currently at $40,000, pretty much bang on right now as of filming. Maybe we'll push a few K higher, but what most people are expecting is we pull back to this line of resistance and test it as support before moving on into the mid 40s or even 50K region, something a little bit like that. But a pullback to actually test the previous resistance and flip it to support would be a bullish thing. And this is what many traders are speculating we will see. So there could be further downside, but it will be still bullish for Bitcoin and the overall crypto market. So this here, this kind of short-term pullback, maybe over the next few days, is something I'm looking at for a God tier entry into some of the altcoins. Now this would be a nice technical move straight from a textbook, but what are the fundamentals that might actually drive this kind of movement, this downward pressure before spiking up again? Well, we still have Chinese miners actually leaving the Chinese provinces, and as a result, we're seeing this. The miner net position change is still negative right now. This means that miners are currently selling their newly mined coins. So this means that they're selling their coins to actually go and migrate to new territories to set up potentially geothermal mining. Maybe we'll see some of these Chinese miners move all the way over to El Salvador. But that is one reason we might see this pullback down to the resistance line here. Then on the Wyckoff accumulation here, it could be argued that we're in this period here in phase D, where we see a pullback to a previous resistance before moving out in phase E, or some people are actually speculating that we're still in phase B and we still have not seen the spring I would actually tend to disagree with that. I think this final third push to the low here was that spring before our ascent out of this that we're seeing now. So for me, I kind of don't think we're seeing the Wyckoff phase C spring in action, but more likely phase D through phase E. If we also look at the Bitcoin USD shorts in play right now, there are a ton of short positions in the market. So this may be a lot of whales shorting Bitcoin right now. And if many people are shorting, and if they're influential people, it may be the fact that we see more FUD and more negative news stories coming. Or maybe they know more than we do about the Chinese mining saga and Chinese FUD in general, and there may be another hurdle on the horizon. So the fundamentals and the technicals may well marry up nicely here. We get that pullback before sending off once more, but this is why I'm waiting for this to occur before deploying more capital into the market, as I think that would be the most sensible time to actually enter into a new trade. So at this point in time, we're seeing a rotation, I think primarily from US dollars into Bitcoin, which matches up with the money flow in crypto chart here from fiat into BTC. And as we're seeing, BTC is the best performing asset generally across the board. There are a few outliers. Over the last 7 days, up 20%. Most of the cryptos have not been able to keep pace, and thus they are therefore losing out on their BTC comparatives here. But we know that once Bitcoin attracts a load of fresh new capital and the market cap balloons above $1 trillion again, and maybe even into 2-3 trillion, who knows where the next leg up is going to take us. This is all fuel to the fire for that waterfall effect and the crypto market cycle to repeat once again. So for me personally, for the altcoins, I see us in this phase. BTC is being bought up with fiat, so we're seeing the first push down, and then we're going to see the second push down, and this is where the cascade effect for altcoins will begin, where Bitcoin money moves into the large cap altcoins. And primarily, I believe that this will be Ethereum. EIP 1559 goes live in July. I think we're going to see people make money in Bitcoin right now and then push that into ETH. I don't think that the EIP 1559 news is quite yet priced in. We're seeing a lot of institutional noise around Ethereum, and I expect that good news narrative to really ramp up towards the end of June, going into the start of July. So this is something I'm looking out for, and a big move into ETH. So if Bitcoin continues to go up, more countries keep adopting it. We've seen the likes of Nigeria and even Tanzania talking about it in the last couple of days. Maybe we're going to see the total crypto market cap absolutely balloon, led by Bitcoin. And once that waterfall starts and you've got, say, $100 billion moving from Bitcoin down into altcoins, the cascading effect is absolutely enormous. And I expect this to be a crazy run that we have over the rest of this cycle, because as these numbers get bigger and bigger, the effects on the lower cap plays, whether or not you believe that they are worth the amounts that they're actually worth, it doesn't really matter. Human nature is exactly the same. Everyone gets fearful in bad times and then very greedy in the prosperous times, and everyone becomes a degenerate and just keeps pushing that money further down the ladder, trying to make more and more. And the more success people see, the more they push that boat further along. So looking at the Bitcoin dominance chart here, we had a full crypto market cycle from absolute despair for altcoin holders back at the end of December, when Bitcoin was fully dominant at around 72%. Can you believe it? And then what was it? Around 147 days later, 24th of May, we peaked out at around 39% for Bitcoin dominance. So in 5 months, we went from Bitcoin season to alt season. We're now seeing a resurrection of Bitcoin season. We've gone from around 41% up to around 45% dominance here. People speculating online at around a 50%. Bitcoin dominance is what we will see over the coming weeks before we move lower again. And then we're looking to challenge the all-time low for Bitcoin dominance here at around 36%. And this is where we need to take note. Once we break through this kind of area, which I expect we will do, we're on borrowed time. And this is where you need to really be taking heavy profits back into stables or whatever your plan is, as it's not likely that we're going to stay beyond this kind of level for that long. And in the same way we saw a sharp and very stark pullback over the last month, with many altcoins losing up to like 70-75% of their value in a very short period of time. We need to be aware of this and make sure we are taking profits steadily and consistently, as the likelihood is we're going to see further pullbacks, and this game rinsed and repeated a few times more. Let's have a little look at some data on this. So this thread I will leave down below from Phoenix on Twitter was a really cool one. Are alts really bearish? Is it over? Can we pack it all up? Let's compare the current situation to the 2017 altcoin market. He goes on to point out that from the bottom of March 2020 to the peak in early May of 2021, we actually saw a 40x for altcoins. And now we've subsequently seen around a 50% pullback. That means we're still up around 20x all in all. So this is one of the charts he posts within this Twitter thread. So we have in a previous cycle, so this was the 2017 bull run. So prior to that, we saw an accumulation phase where the total altcoin market cap consolidated, accumulated for a total of 798 days here until it broke its previous all-time high market cap. Then once it broke its all-time high, which was only 174 million at that point, obviously the numbers have gone up considerably since then, it then posted this parabolic run, increasing a total of 280,000% in that market cap when all was said and done. From our market cap lows at the end of 2018, we then had a reaccumulation phase around the same amount of time, 798 days they've mapped here, at which we broke the previous all-time high for altcoins at around Q1 of 2021. So taking out the previous all-time high here set in 2018. And then we've had our first breakout and first pullback. And what we can see from here is we had a 58% pullback, but this is nothing new. After our first breakout in 2017's run, which actually came right at the back end of 2016, we had a breakout and then a pullback and correction of around 53%. So 53% versus 58%. So human behavior did not change. We still get very fearful during pullbacks, and thus we're seeing similar figures here, although the stakes are way, way higher. So back here, that pullback was minus $324 million. The one we've just seen, an eye-watering negative $874 billion, exiting in just, a couple of weeks, which is insane. However, this just points out human behavior is the same every single time. We go through these peaks and troughs on a regular basis. The market overheats and then pulls back. We saw a 52% pullback, a 55% pullback, and a 50% pullback before reaching our ultimate peak in 2018. So 4 bites at the cherry during the last cycle. This was the first major pullback for alts of the 2021 cycle. As you can see, following this parabolic curve, we have not progressed all that far just yet. And this is pointing out that we may see up to $8.7 trillion in altcoin market cap. This may be a little bit too high and a bit too frothy for me, but who knows? But I would say around 5 trillion, maybe 6 trillion is somewhere that I would really be scaling out and starting to feel uncomfortable with holding many altcoins at that point, as Bitcoin's likely to have a couple of trillion at least, maybe 3, maybe 4, and this would put the total crypto market cap towards 10 trillion plus. And I think at that point we're really pushing it, and that would be matching the current market cap of gold. And that's kind of a market in the sand that I really think we should shoot towards. And of course, the closer we get to that, it's just diminishing returns, as the vast majority of gains will have been made by that point. So we've definitely seen one crypto money flow play out already in 2021 from around the end of December through till May. How many more are we going to get? No one can tell you that answer, but it is very interesting to see that we had pretty much 4 bites at the cherry in 2017. So this means we can take what we've learned over the first few months of this year and apply it to the rest of this cycle. So that was my food for thought for today's episode. But let me know down below in the comments section, are we still heading up, or are we going to see a pullback? Is Microstrategy going to be the biggest holder of Bitcoin? And is the next alt season going to be led by Ethereum with EIP 1559 in July? As ever, subscribe if you're new here. Check out my Patreon link down below, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.